So, I had this giant bamboo pole, and when I say giant, I mean, it was thicker than my arm and crazy long. It had been sitting in my workshop for a while, and every time I looked at it, my brain started buzzing with ideas. What could we do with this thing? We could build something, sure, but that felt predictable. I wanted to do an experiment, something fun, something a little bit silly, and something that would probably end with someone getting wet. Then it hit me. What if we tried to use it as a bridge? A super wobbly, super unstable bridge across my pool. The ultimate balance beam challenge. The question was simple, but the physics behind it were actually pretty cool. Would a single bamboo pole even hold a person's weight? I knew bamboo was super strong for its weight. It's basically nature's carbon fiber. But how strong is this pole? Would it bend? Would it snap? And more importantly, would it just roll over the second you put a foot on it? We weren't just building a bridge. We were creating a legend. A story to be told about that one time we tried to cross the water on a giant bamboo pole. First things first, we had to get our bamboo champion into position. This thing was way heavier than it looked. It took two of us, my nephew and me, to haul it over to the edge of the pool. We carefully lowered one end onto the concrete deck, then slowly pushed it out over the water until the other end rested on the opposite side. There it was, a thin golden-green line stretching across the bright blue water. It looked awesome. But before anyone dared to step on it, we had to run some preliminary tests. The first question, does bamboo float? We gently pushed the middle of the pole off the edge and into the water. And bingo! It floated beautifully, bobbing on the surface like a giant pool noodle. Now for the big test strength. We knew it floated, but could it support weight without being anchored? To find out, we started small. I grabbed a 5-pound weight from my garage and carefully placed it right in the middle of the pole as it spanned the pool. The bamboo barely even noticed. It dipped maybe a tiny fraction of an inch. Okay, good start. Next, we got a 25-pound weight. This time, we saw a definite bend. The pole sagged a few inches into the water, but it felt incredibly strong and springy. With the pole secured and our initial weight test complete, the stage was set. The bamboo bridge looked surprisingly stable, yet incredibly intimidating. Okay, moment of truth. I took a deep breath, channeled my inner tightrope walker, and placed one bare foot onto the end of the bamboo pole. It felt surprisingly solid, but also alive. The pole wiggled slightly under my weight. I slowly brought my other foot up, my arms shooting out to the sides for balance like a cartoon character. For a split second, I was standing there, suspended over the water on this giant bamboo stick. I had done it. I took one shaky step forward. The pole dipped and wobbled violently, and my brain went into full-on panic mode. My feet were scrambling for grip on the smooth, round surface. I managed another step and then another. Each one was a battle. My focus was intense. I was staring at the other side of the pool like it was the finish line of a marathon. I was about halfway across when I made a fatal mistake. I got cocky. For a brief moment I thought, hey, I'm actually doing this. I glanced over at my nephew to flash a confident grin. Big mistake. That tiny shift in focus was all it took. My balance wavered, I overcorrected, and the pole rolled just enough to send my foot slipping off the side. There was that split second of weightlessness where you know it's all over. And then, splash. I was completely submerged in the cool water of the pool, emerging with a gasp and a big goofy smile on my face. The experiment had its first failure, and it was hilarious. After my spectacular splashdown, it was my nephew's turn. He's smaller and lighter than me, which I figured would be a huge advantage. In theory, the pole would bend less, and his lower center of gravity should make balancing easier. He watched my attempt, learned from my mistakes, and approached the bamboo pole with the kind of serious focus only a kid trying to show up his uncle can have. He stepped on, his arms out wide, his eyes locked on the prize. He was much more cautious than I was, taking slow, deliberate steps. He was a natural. He made it past the halfway point, the spot where I had so dramatically failed. The pole was definitely dipping less under his weight, which seemed to give him more stability. He was like a little spider monkey, his toes gripping the curved surface of the bamboo. He was actually going to make it, but we decided to up the stakes. To make it a true scientific test, we had to introduce a new variable. I grabbed a pool noodle and, from the side of the pool, gave the bamboo pole a gentle whack. The whole thing vibrated like a giant guitar string, sending waves of instability toward him. His eyes widened, and he wobbled precariously for a moment, but he held on. The kid had incredible balance. He was just a few feet from the end when we threw one last challenge at him, a small, inflatable beach ball tossed gently in his direction. He saw it coming, and instead of trying to catch it or dodge it, he just froze. A few more careful steps, and then, success! He stepped onto the concrete deck on the other side, raising his arms in victory. He had officially conquered the Great Bamboo Challenge. So did it work? The answer is a resounding yes. We successfully crossed a pool on a single giant bamboo pole. Sure, it took a few tries and one very wet engineer, but we proved it could be done. Our experiment taught us a ton. First and foremost, we learned that bamboo is an incredible natural material. It's ridiculously strong for its weight, able to support a full-grown adult with nothing but a bit of flex. We also learned a lot about balance and physics. This wasn't just a silly game. It was a hands-on lesson in center of gravity. Every wobble and correction was a physical manifestation of Newton's laws of motion. And of course, we need to talk about safety, but let's keep it fun. Our main safety protocol was falling into a pool, which is about as safe as it gets. If you try something like this, make sure your failure zone is safe. It's a great reminder that science isn't just something that happens in a lab with beakers and fancy equipment. It happens every time you try something new in your own backyard, especially when there's a chance of a massive failure. Ultimately, the biggest lesson was about the joy of curiosity and playful experimentation. We took a simple object, asked a simple question, and created an entire afternoon of fun, learning, and unforgettable memories. It's a reminder to get outside, look at the world around you, and ask, what if? You don't need a fancy lab to be a scientist or an engineer. All you need is a giant bamboo pole, a swimming pool, and a willingness to get a little wet. And that, right there, is what it's all about. Now, what should we build with this bamboo next?